I'm Julianne Puente, head of school at Albuquerque Academy in New Mexico. The Academy is a leader in the world of independent schools. We honor our past while embracing the future of education. Even though I've been going to school in one shape or form for almost my entire life, I still learn something new every day. And I use that knowledge to tackle the challenges that should interest anyone who has a stake in the future we can't fully imagine. Thanks for joining me to hear about what I learned in school. Welcome to What I Learned in School, the Albuquerque Academy podcast where we share the stories and voices that have shaped our community and continue to guide us today. Every school has its traditions, the rituals, celebrations, and shared moments that make up its heartbeat. At the Academy, those traditions connect generations of Chargers. Whether it's convocation, community day, or a quiet moment under the cottonwoods, these experiences remind us who we are and what we value. Today, I'm joined by John Duncan, class of 1962, one of the Academy's very first graduates. John was part of the small but mighty group of students who helped define what it meant to be an Academy student in those early days. His stories from the original North Valley campus offer a beautiful glimpse into the school's beginnings and the traditions that have carried forward for more than 60 years. John, welcome. It's a true honor to have you here today. So do you remember when the original campus opened, which is now at Prep? Mm-hmm. And were you in the church basement and that other, where the Academy began? Yeah. Or did you start right on that new campus?
I started in 57, which was the first year at the old school. Mm-hmm. And when we started classing, they were still working on the building. So I remember that. And, the workers were working on the roof.
Yeah.
But I remember that.
All right.
And I couldn't tell you how many students we had at that time, mm-hmm. but it probably wasn't very many.
Right.
Because the year I graduated, we had 95. Mm-hmm. So
Total.
Right.
So we'll graduate about 177 this year.
Okay.
So that's just graduation, right?
Yeah.
So it's changed. And do you remember what was school like? What were you taking? What were the points of emphasis?
Well,
from a student's perspective,
yeah.
Right?
The one thing I remember is that on Fridays we had to wear coats and ties.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know when that stopped.
Well, it doesn't. When I look back at yearbooks here, it doesn't seem to have much of a dress code for quite some time. Yeah. So, but
I remember that, and the emphasis was on math, science, English, history, mm-hmm. Languages. And I think that's probably why my parents decided to send me to the Academy.
Yeah.
Because my dad was a professor at UNM. My mom was a librarian for the medical school. And it was always assumed I'd go to college.
Right.
And I think they decided that even though the Academy was just getting started, the idea of it being a college prep school, they thought that would be a better opportunity mm-hmm. for me to go to the college that they wanted me to go to.
Right.
And I ended up going to, which was Oberlin, which is where both my parents went.
Right.
So,
great, in Ohio.
Yeah.
So in kind of thinking back to that time, and I like that you called it the old campus. How do you feel when you walk on our campus today?
I think it's an amazing place. I was explaining to you earlier that I was away from Albuquerque from 62 when I graduated. I didn't get back till 78. Mm-hmm. Of course, the school was here, and I was just blown away by the school. The quality of the teachers, the quality of the curriculum. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing place.
Yeah.
And for my background, I love the fact that we're, number 17 in the country in terms of our excellence in sports.
Yeah, 13.
So, 13th, sorry.
And we'll see. That was that year. Last year, we just had an unbelievable run of state championships.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I just love that we're in it. Mm-hmm. That's really year after year. I just describe the academy punches above its weight in this area, and they always manage to play up and win. So I also don't want that pressure on them to be like,
Well, I saw in the paper this morning that we beat Pius.
We did.
Yes.
We did. That was yesterday. And so our boys soccer beat Pius, I think, on Friday. Our girls soccer beat Pius yesterday. Football beat Pius, having been down, by 21, came back. So that rivalry continues. I like the side that we're on of these games, though.
Yeah.
So one thing back to sports. Do you remember how we got our school colors?
When we started playing, Manal School was very helpful to us. And they gave us their old uniforms in red and black. That's how we ended up with red and black. And Dave Tomlinson, who was the athletic director for Manal School, was very helpful to the academy in terms of not only giving us some old uniforms, but he was very helpful to me personally because we played our first scrimmage in basketball.
Right.
We played Manal, and at that time, Manal was perennially one of the better schools in Albuquerque. And at halftime, he came up to me. I played center.
Right.
Shows how much things have changed. I was 6 feet, and I was a center.
Right.
Now I'd be a small guard.
Right.
But he said, "John, you're a really good player, but you're too scared. When you're in the paint, don't worry about using your elbows and your knees and shoving people out of the way. They're not going to call a foul on you.
Right.
Get physical, right?" So I did that, and I think if he hadn't encouraged me in that way, I wouldn't have been nearly as good a player. As it turned out, I was second in the city in scoring and was on the all-city basketball team. And that's because he said, "Look, if you want to play the game with the big guys, this is what you got to do."
Right.
So
you were in the third graduating class. What were the traditions like for graduation? Do you recall?
Well, in a sense, no, because we didn't really have traditions because we were just getting started and we didn't know.
Right.
I was explaining earlier that when my senior year, we decided that the seniors collectively would leave school and be gone for a week. And it turned out that one of the teachers had a cabin up in the Sandias, so we all went up and spent a week in the cabin in the Sandias. And my understanding is that for several years afterward, it became a tradition of senior week when seniors would take off.
Do you know what it is now?
Have no idea.
Yeah, it's I have really come to appreciate it because it provides a space also for parents in this, but it's basically a week of massive events that take place both on campus, off campus, mostly on. And yes, they have the week off during the day, and that's it. But I like that. That's how it started as a week in a cabin in the Sandias. It probably costs very differently than it does today. How would you define, what it meant or what it means to you to be an academy student?
Well, I'm sure it's changed a lot over the years, because I think now nobody would even question the fact that this is probably the best school in New Mexico. But when I was there, people joke about this, but there's a certain level of truth that nobody's really sure if we were a prep school or a rich school for juvenile delinquents.
Right. I've heard a lot from your peer group saying that. They say it's not that way now, but right.
And we had a very eclectic bunch of students. But we were just getting started.
Right.
And I think everybody was feeling their way. The headmaster, William Wilburn, the one who started the school, he had a certain idea of what he wanted to do.
Right.
And when he had to leave, Paul Saunders took over.
Right.
And I really admired Paul Saunders. I liked him a lot. And I thought he is tremendously important for the school.
Do you remember who were some important teachers to you?
Paul Saunders was an important teacher for me. The history teacher, Robert Cooper, the one with the cabin that we escaped to. Paul Schroeder was the English teacher. Mrs. Riggs was the Latin teacher. Curiously, Robert Creeley taught at our school for a while. I don't know if you know who he is. Robert Creeley was a beat poet, and with Allen Ginsberg and that crowd. And he was supposed to teach second-year Latin. And at that time, the second-year Latin text was Caesar's Gallic Wars. Well, he didn't like Caesar's Gallic Wars, so he said, well, let's concentrate on Latin poetry. So we started to study the Latin poets, and he quickly realized that we didn't know anything about poetry. So second-year Latin devolved into a course on poetry, and we ended up second-year Latin listening to Allen Ginsberg read Howell.
Wow, that's a good story.
But he was a good teacher. And then Ed Charles was the science teacher, and a guy named Morrison was the biology teacher. He was very strange, very unusual. He came to one of our proms one time. We'd actually had a prom.
And who did you couple with? Like another school or?
Everybody brought their own date.
I got it.
Okay.
Sometimes when a boys' school, they'll do it with a girls' school. Yeah. I got it.
And he was supposed to come, and then he showed up late, and we were all wondering, okay, what kind of date is he going to bring?
Right.
Well, we found out later the reason he was late is he was driving down the road and saw a roadkill that says, "Oh, I can use that for biology lab." So. Well,
you'll be pleased to know that the Academy faculty is as quirky and interesting as ever.
I'm sure.
That wouldn't be a story that would surprise me in a way here. Right.
Morrison was actually, in some ways, very good because he was very particular about doing things in biology, and everything had to be done a certain way, and you had to create your notebook. And he made sure that we all bought a can of rubber cement, and we did all this. Right. So he was very meticulous about his topic. Right. He was just a little unusual.
What do you have some other memories of maybe some pranks or shenanigans that may have happened here?
I've got lots of those.
So why don't you pick one that you wouldn't be you'd be okay sharing?
Oh yeah. I mentioned Robert Schroeder, who was the English teacher. We had there were 6 of us in the English Lit class. And of course, I was mentioning earlier that when you have that few students and that few teachers, you get to know each other really well. You got to know the teachers really well. They get to know you really well. So Schroeder was one of the original turn out the lights when you leave a room to save electricity kind of guys. So we were in a class, and this was probably May. So, and we were all seniors, and we were just sort of getting tired. We wanted to get everything over and done with. And we were supposed to read a poem called The Blue Boy and analyze it and talk intelligently about it. And we didn't really want to. So he asked one of us, well, can you tell me why it's called The Blue Boy? And he started saying something, well, because he didn't like pink. And so we were just getting really goofy. And he realized what we were doing. So he gets up and says, okay, when you want to be serious, I'll come back. And so he gets ready to leave the room, and he didn't turn out the light. So one of us said, Mr. Schroeder, you forgot to turn out the light.
Right.
So he comes back, glares at us, turns off the light, slams the door, and walks away, and didn't come back for about a half an hour.
It's been also, we were talking, so I had interviewed Don Smith and Andy Watson, and they were talking about, some pranks that they had to handle as being heads of school here. And then I spoke to an alum who actually pulled off the prank. So that part's always been, pretty cool to have these conversations from both sides on this.
Yeah. You ask about any other things that I remember.
Yeah.
One of the things was when I was a junior, we got involved in something called Project Talent. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have not. It may have a different name now, but...
Well, this was a project, so this would have been 1960.
Okay.
And it took us 3 days, and we answered all kinds of tests during 3 days. But part of the whole project was we each had to fill out a questionnaire that had what we thought at the time were pretty silly questions, like how many rooms does your house have? Does it have running water? Is it hot and cold? Do you have an indoor toilet? And things like that.
Right.
But then they would also have, traditional English, history, science, math, so on, tests. But they also had lots of spatial tests, like they would show you a piece of paper in an odd shape with dotted lines. And they'd say, if you take this piece of paper and you fold it along the dotted lines, what does it make? A pyramid, a cube, an octagon, or something like that. And then they show these other ones where some guy would be holding on to a piece of pipe or something.
Right.
And at the other end, there's a guy with a hammer over his head. There's all these pulleys.
Right.
And so you say, okay, if you're on this end, if you pull down on the lever,
right,
does the hammer go up or does it go down? So you have to
figure out how.
And of course, that was, engineers do that like right away, and me, I'm liberal arts, and they're like, what? So they had all these different kinds of questions, and then when everything was done, you were given a score in all these, in like 18 different areas.
Right.
And then they, based on what your score was, they were trying to see if they could predict. This is what the whole idea behind Project Talent. What your talent was. Was it engineering? Was it medicine? Was it, language? Was it this or was it that? But what made it particularly interesting was for 15 years, I got a follow-up questionnaire. I got one when I was in college, and then I got another one when I was in graduate school. And then my last one was when I was in Spain. And it was very detailed, what are you doing? What are you studying? What was your major? And so on. And then I didn't hear anything at all about this until I read a book called The Bell Curve.
Yeah, of course.
And he talks about Project Talent in that. And I thought, okay, so what happened is they ran out of money. And so I think at the University of Chicago, there's all this data sitting in boxes somewhere.
And Academy data is in there?
Well, we were one of
the schools.
several hundred, a couple of thousand schools all over the country. And what they were trying to do is figure the relationship between income, educational level of your parents, all of that, to see how it affects your chances. Of course, that's what the bell curve is all about. Right. That those who go to good schools, marry people who go to good schools, their kids go to good schools, and so on.
Yep. So I'd love to hear about your life from 62 to 78. Like, what did you do after academy? You said you went to Oberlin. And then what was that time like there? And what did you do?
I went to Oberlin. And then since my dad was a professor, every 7 years he had a sabbatical. So my sophomore year at Oberlin, he had a sabbatical and he was going to Spain. And he said, why don't you come study in Spain? So I did. I spent my sophomore year abroad at the University of Granada in Spain. And then came back and majored in history. And then went to University of Michigan for my graduate work in history. In 1969, I got a Fulbright to go to Spain to do research for my thesis. And then got married, had to work 2 different jobs. Because the Fulbright was only good for a year. And then in 1978, I came back to the United States, partially because living in Spain from 1969 to 1978 was very interesting because in 1975, Franco died. In my first few years there, every year I'd go to the Fulbright Commission and they'd sign my papers for a student visa, and I'd take it to the police department, they'd stamp it, and it was done. So Franco dies, and go to the Fulbright Commission, they sign a piece of paper, I take it to the police department, and they say, you're going to have to talk to the lieutenant. So, okay. So I interview with the lieutenant, and he says, well, it says here that you're married, you've got 3 kids. How are you supporting them? Well, I'm teaching English as a second language at the embassy and teaching Spanish history for an American university in Madrid. Oh, so you work here? Well, yeah. Well, we can't give you a residency permit until you get a work permit. Okay. How do I go to the work permit? So I go to the Ministry of Labor, and of course you have to remember Spain invented red tape. So what's the first requirement for a work permit? A residency permit. So after about 2 years of trying to work through this mess, and then at one point I get off the bus to go teach my English classes, and there's police and fire trucks, things all over the place. Somebody put a bomb in the building where we teach our English classes. So I thought,
we're done.
Maybe it's time to come home. So I came back to Albuquerque.
And, you should see visa issues now for studying in Spain. It is unreal. And I'm on the school year abroad board, and so they have a campus in Spain, and it's like an existential crisis because you can't. I mean, these are just teenagers trying to study for half a year or a year. It's just far more complex now, both directions.
Yeah. Well, and when I was there, I seriously looked into, okay, could I teach Spanish history at a Spanish university? And so my inquiries about that, what they wanted was, of course, transcripts, but they wanted written explanation of each course from each of my professors in college and graduate school, which was impossible. And then given the politics in Spain, my application would have to be approved by both the president of the university and, of course, Spain being centralized, the minister of education. Well, whatever the president of the university would say, the minister of education would say the opposite.
Right.
So I said, well, there's just no way. So
had Albuquerque changed? I mean, what was Albuquerque like in 1962, or when you were growing up as a kid, and when you came back versus now?
Yeah, well, in 1962, to give you an idea, Lomas was a paved road to to Louisiana.
Okay.
It was a dirt road going east.
Mm-hmm.
The next road was a dirt road, was Wyoming. The next dirt road was Eubank.
Right.
And I remember this because my brother was a mechanic for a place. We had a racetrack called Speedway Park,
Mm-hmm.
which is on South Eubank. And so I would tag along with him, and you'd make a right on Eubank, and it's a dirt road to Central. And then Eubank was paved from Central south
Mm-hmm.
to Speedway Park because that's where they had the drag races on Sundays.
Right.
Well, Montgomery was the last road north.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, Louisiana was the last paved road
Right.
east. And for us, Wantabeau, we called it either two things, the roller coaster or lover's lane, depending on what you wanted to do,
Love it.
because it was just a dirt road that went up and down, and it was, fun to get your car and go with a hill at
Uh-huh.
90 miles an hour. And when I came back and started working, I worked for an insurance company. And I remember one of my first clients, I had to go to his house, and and I asked him where he lived. And he said, well, I live about 3 blocks east of Tramway. And I'm like, what's Tramway? He said, oh, well, Tramway is the major road after Wantabeau. And I'm like, there's a road after
Right.
Wantabeau?
Right.
So just the city had changed enormously.
Yeah.
It had gotten a whole lot bigger, and of course, it's continued to grow.
Do you remember where were some of the places you would go to eat or, socially when you were, a teenager? Where were the go-tos?
There weren't very many.
Right.
I think growing up, we didn't eat out.
Mm-hmm.
We practically never.
Right.
We always ate at home. I grew up on the university campus,
Mm-hmm.
so my go-to place was the UNM campus,
Right.
because that's where I grew up, and that's where a lot of my friends lived.
Nice. Nice.
In terms of restaurants, I'm being somewhat facetious, but restaurants, there was 2 or 3 Mexican restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of steak places.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just about it.
Right.
One of the things that impressed me when I came back to Albuquerque in 78, and of course now it's even much better, but when I came back in 78, there's French, there's Chinese, there's
Right,
Japanese,
right.
there's Korean, and now there's Vietnamese and there's
Mhm.
Thai. There's
Yeah.
just all sorts of
Mm-hmm.
places. So that has changed.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what we did, there were 3 theaters,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4. There were drive-in theaters, and we'd go to drive-in theaters. But in terms of movie theaters, we had the State and Chemo
Mm-hmm.
the Chemo, State, and Sunshine downtown,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Highland Theater, which is still there, but I don't think they show movies anymore.
Right.
And that was it.
Right. Got it. So, looking forward, what are some things that you hope the Academy has retained from your time here? And what are what's your advice or your hopes and dreams for our school moving forward?
Well, one of the things that it made me think about this, because you asked me about what I remember, and I mentioned Project Talent. I've always felt that one of the things that has always made me most proud of the Academy is that it's provided an opportunity for kids who might not otherwise have a chance to get a good education.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what the measure is now, but for years it was a needs-blind
Mm-hmm.
admissions policy.
It still is.
Good. Because I'm sure and I'm sure if you talk to the alumni, there are a number of people that have graduated from the Academy, gone on to college, grad school, they become doctors, they become engineers, they become lawyers. And if it hadn't been for the Academy,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have been able to achieve any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been very proud of the fact that we offer that opportunity, and I hope we continue to do
Yeah.
that going forward.
Yeah. It's to the tune of $5.2 million a year that we invest on our students and our student body. And it is, a difference maker in that way. Of course, there are always more kids and families who there's more need than there are dollars. And that's when I always hope, alums step in and help us continue to bridge that gap and provide opportunities for as many kids as possible. And that's been another, at least for me, I'm like, when we can say, yes, let's do it. And the more kids that have an academy experience, I think the better.
Yeah. Well, when we were at your house, and you mentioned that the one area that we don't do a very good
You're
job
right.
is alumni giving.
Philanthropy. Yep.
And I think that probably, I would think it's improving.
It is.
Because I think you need a certain critical mass of just numbers of alumni.
John, you also need to talk about it, and alums need to be asked.
Yeah.
And I just can say for certain they have now been asked.
Yeah.
And they're answering the call, and I think that momentum will continue to grow. And I think there are many ways of engaging with the school. Yes, dollars are one of them, but it's been so nice. We've had great return rates, if you will, of people going to events and coming back and reconnecting, even on the events across the country. So I think we've hit that important tipping point.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, and when I came back in '78, there still weren't a lot of people.
Right.
I don't know what the alumni base was at that time, but it was 3,000-4,000 maybe. I don't know what it is now.
Right. I mean, it's 8,000 total in terms of but there, even if you just do on average 100 graduates times, there may be between 700 and 1,000 who have, right? 70 times 100. Yeah. So yeah, that's how many people have graduated from there. And then what I also like about the academy, which I haven't found at other schools, they continue to consider kids part of the classes who left in 10th grade or 9th grade or 11th grade. You don't have to have graduated from here to continue to be part of the class. I think that's a very, it's novel and it's kind and much more inclusive than I've seen in other spaces.
Well, I was very pleased with Andy Watson because he clearly he appreciated everything that went on before him.
Right.
And he was very inclusive about it. If you went to the academy, you're part of the academy.
Right.
So I was very pleased.
Yeah. I hope you still feel that way now. And that's why I, have the events at my home and do all of those kinds of things. And, enjoy the opportunity to connect and learn and talk to people who are here before me.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that you took some time to chat with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. It's time for Teacher Feature, when you get to meet one of the fantastic faculty members at the Academy. Today, we're excited to introduce Karen Glenn, class of '85, who returned to Albuquerque Academy in 2021. This time, not as a student, but as a member of our faculty. Karen is a history teacher and serves as the chair of the history department. During her time as a student at the Academy, Karen was a true standout. She was a 4-year varsity soccer player, competed on both the softball and basketball teams, and earned the title of class jock. Off the field, she brought a creative eye to campus life as a photography editor for the yearbook. Karen's journey from student athlete and artist to department chair is a remarkable example of coming full circle, and we're thrilled to have her back at the Academy. Karen, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Karen, take us back a little bit to your time as a student here. Do you remember your parents making that decision? Where were you in that decision? What was the academy like in the early 80s?
Back in the day?
Please don't talk about ABBA.
Actually, it wasn't my parents' idea for me to come here. I had a friend in 8th grade who said that she was going to apply to the school. And so I went home and told my parents that I wanted to apply to the academy too, because this other person was going to be applying. And so they were like, okay, my dad knew of the academy. He worked at Sandia. And so he, knew the reputation, and, they didn't push it at all. And so then I got in. And they said, okay, if you want to go there, then you can go there. And so I came. So it wasn't really like a family decision or anything like that. It was mine.
So tell us a little bit about your time at the academy. And, girls were a relatively new phenomenon at that time, what it was like in the classrooms, on the campus, interactions with faculty. Just your general memories then.
Well, I wouldn't say that I was an academic standout. I came from public school. I wasn't really sure, what I was getting into. I came from a good public school. I don't want to demean that at all.
Right.
But it was very different to be in small classes. There were definitely fewer girls in the classes. Even when I was a senior, I was the only girl in my senior English class. Roy Morgan will remember that. He was a classmate of mine in that class. I remember really finding my comfort level, my comfort zone at the school was on whatever field or court that I was playing in, or in the dark room doing photography, which I really enjoyed. And that was loading the film canisters, getting the paper, putting the chemicals, like doing the whole thing. Right. And I really enjoyed that.
And what are some classes that you remember? 'Cause I know we've talked about this, but, what were you taking? And did you find parts of it like frustrating or appealing or inspiring or I'd say even debilitating?
Well, math is not my subject, which is why I'm in the realm of history. I remember all of my math classes because I struggled mightily in those. But I remember at the time my JV basketball coach, Such, was I think it was Algebra 1 teacher. And he was kind of a gruff man, but he was very, very helpful. He tried really hard to get me to understand. And Vince Cordova was my geometry teacher. And I remember him calling my dad.
He's been on our show.
Yeah. I remember him calling my dad one time, trying to figure out where my disconnect was. But again, they were all very, very kind. And I remember reading a separate piece in, I don't remember what year in English, but I loved that. I remember wishing the old man would catch the fish faster in Old Man in the Sea.
Yeah.
And I took German, and my, it wasn't a huge German class, so I was with those kids every year, and I certainly enjoyed that. And I'm trying to think what else. I took creative writing. I was told that my characters were kind of flat. Which I remember writing about boarding school, and I think that I wish that I had known somebody or anyone who had gone to boarding school, and that I think I would have enjoyed that.
So what about athletics? I mean, you coach at the academy now. You've seen the school grow from when you left it, and the enormous success we have on the boys' side and the girls' side. What was it like for you?
I loved soccer. When I came in, I came off of an AYSO team, so I wasn't playing in the select yet and all that kind of stuff. And I remember coming to the school and trying out, and I wore glasses and was kind of very introverted. And then I found out that I was actually good at it. And so I was on the varsity team as a freshman. I didn't play that much, but, I worked my way up and really found my confidence in that space. And then, they asked me to play a partway through basketball, on the varsity team, and I'd never played basketball before.
Now you had batches.
No, actually, she coached the JV team the year that I was a senior, but I remember that.
So does she, and so do all of the women now who played on that team, actually.
Yes, I remember watching that.
So you finish at the academy. Talk us through a little bit of the transition to college.
So, I had in my head that I was going to be an attorney. I was going to go to school in Southern California. I wanted to be an attorney, and I couldn't have been more wrong about where I probably should have gone to school. But I went to University of Redlands, and I liked the school, and I played on their soccer team for a couple of years. And, I think I was too young to go to school. I graduated when I was 18 or 17, and then so I turned 18 as a freshman. And I think gap year would have been
a good year thing for
right
you.
up my alley, but that wasn't a thing back in the day.
Yeah.
My parents would have absolutely said no. But so I came home after I graduated from college, and I worked for an architect here for a year. And then I decided to go back to school. And that's when I really, I wouldn't describe myself as an academic, but that's when I became very serious about school.
And so how did your path lead to teaching?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I decided to get a master's in history because that was the subject I liked the most. But then I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And I met a couple people in grad school, and that was going to be their path. They were doing social studies work, and they were getting certified in North Carolina to do that. And so I said, okay, I'll do this. I'll just do it for 2 years. And then I'll go figure out what I'm really going to do.
Right.
And so that 2 years turned into 33.
Right. So you spent the majority of your career in North Carolina, in both the public school sector and at Charlotte Latin in Charlotte. And what brought you back to the academy? I mean, you were there a long time.
I was there a very long time. I was in North Carolina for 30 plus years. So really I came back. I will say I had looked a couple of times before I actually applied at what was open, just kind of fiddling around. But my daughter went to school at where I taught. So it was not, I wouldn't have wanted her to have to move schools. But
I think she would have liked the academy.
I think she would have loved the academy, actually. I think that during COVID, it became very clear that my parents needed some help. And so the department chair position was open. And so
yes, I remember.
I was kind of like, oh, I'll apply and we'll just see what happens, and as fate had it, I think it worked out really well, I hope, for everybody involved.
Absolutely.
But it was it afforded me the opportunity to come back and help my parents.
So you've been at the academy for 5 years. It has been 5 years of a lot of change, and people like to talk about. But what are some of the changes you have led? I'm also in your department.
Yeah.
In the way that we are thinking about the teaching of history in terms of curriculum, pedagogy, topics, order, skills. Why don't you take us through some of the things that we've been working on?
Well, I think one of the most interesting things when I came back was this conversation around humanities and whether or not that was going to be a requirement, because I definitely remember that. Clyde didn't talk about that when you asked me the question about classes previously. But I think it was a good change because it allows people to kind of have a different resume when they graduate from here. I think back in the day when I graduated, pretty much everyone had the same, transcript. So I think that changed.
And that was the same in 2020.
Yeah.
Too, 21, right. Yeah.
I think it was wise. It allows for that differentiation. I think, to continue with the topic of differentiation, I think everyone thinks that AP classes are supposed to be the epitome, and not everyone is cut out to take that type of a class. And I think a couple of the things that we added in the history department, one being the Advanced American Studies, which is a writing heavy advanced class for sophomores. I think that was a nice opportunity for kids who maybe didn't want to do the standardized test situation to have that choice. I think that adding the advanced electives with the capstones, I think that also gives students the opportunity to differentiate themselves and also kind of pick a topic and go more into depth with that, which, you know, oftentimes in the survey classes, we just can't do that. I think that moving U.S. history to 10th grade has also been an interesting development. I think that, you know, there were questions around whether or not 10th graders could handle APUSH, and I think they've done quite well. And it kind of streamlined the requirement process since you have to have 9th, 10th, and then they can choose 11th and 12th. So I'm pleased with how those have
and they choose. I mean, they opt in, which is really the best space to be in. And that, you know, it's funny when you talk about the humanities. For me as an outsider, that was a pretty straightforward kind of decision, but I knew that it wasn't for the academy. But that change was led by 3 administrators who were alums, like you, class of 85, Liz Payne, the class of 2005. She was the English chair at that point. Christine Lenhart was the 10-12 division head. She was class of 94. And Stephanie Lipkowitz, who wasn't an alum but was so well known. And simply by allowing, not eliminating, but not requiring kids to take English and humanities. So right now we have 7 sections of humanities, 4 different senior English electives. And overall, we have about 20 kids who still choose to do both, which is great. We've made humanities very heavy in writing. So and we classified it as an English class now, has allowed kids to take all different kinds of things in the sciences and in history, in world language, the arts. And I think they're just healthier, because they have some choice in that, as opposed to, 6 buckets were already kind of locked up before you even start. You want kids to love learning, and they can do this in a whole variety of areas. So, I think it was brave and not as hard as people think, or at least for me, it wasn't.
I think what people were surprised about with that is the number of students that continued to do it. They were like, we're still going to take this, and their older siblings tell them to take it. And, and even 4 years removed from the decision, the class still remains and has a healthy enrollment.
But as opposed to having kids who really wanted to take maths or science or do that, and they're in this space of 2 courses that are maybe not in their top 6 even. Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest changes, when you look at what the academy offers. Granted, it's much larger than it was when I graduated, but, just the sheer number of opportunities that the kids have here is amazing.
A lot of times people remember their history classes as basically rote memorization. And to some degree it was. How has the teaching of history changed since you started, decades ago? and what's our approach to teaching history now?
That's an interesting question because, in doing it for 30 some years as you have as well, I mean, we've had to change from all kinds of different types of things where everything was multiple choice, and you had to memorize dates and, names, dates, and dead people. And, people weren't that excited about it. And I could lecture for a really long time, and boy, would you like it. But, so I think that over the years primary sources have become the focal point. I think visuals, art has become part of the focal point, and being able to make connections between eras and current day, that those types of things are more important. And I think you have to still fight the conversation, particularly with AP kids. They're like, well, how am I supposed to memorize this? And it's, I don't want you to memorize it. I want you to tell a story. And, if you can tell the story and understand the cause and effect and explain that, you're going to be just fine.
Right.
So I definitely think that has shifted for the better.
Yep. I mean, I love the American studies approach, which you can make it in any studies, but looking at art, religion, newspapers. When do newspapers become primary sources versus secondary sources? Music, geography, maps, and really assessing the quality of a source and how does that source, what isn't included in something, and how do you ask those kinds of questions, and far less teacher centered certainly than what I remember in school, and there are such things as facts. It's not like that they've gone away.
Sure.
But it's not simply the spitting them back, but an analysis and a synthesis of them, and being able to articulate those ideas in a variety of forms.
And I feel like it doesn't matter the age of the student. All of those things that you just mentioned are accessible to any kid.
Right.
And you may actually be able to tap into their own personal interests by using music or art or, even science of that day.
What do you think's next for the Academy? I mean, you're an alum, you are a veteran master teacher. What do you think we need to be looking towards, even after we're done? What's the next phase for the school, do you think?
I think continuing on the path of being representative of the city, that's very, very different from the experience that I had here. And it was something that I spoke frequently to my colleagues in Charlotte about, because it's an intentionality that I think should continue. I think continuously going through the elective process and assessing what students will be interested in, and giving them that opportunity to choose is something that's important. I think making sure that we're staying up to date with how to operate with AI or whatever. I can't even imagine what's coming after whatever chip's going to get planted in your head. But staying abreast of those types of changes, I think will be really important. The school's curriculum has to be relevant for the school to continue. And they've done an excellent job of that for 70 years.
Is there anything else you want to touch on?
You know what I would add? I would love to see the school think about more study abroad opportunities, even if it's not go and live somewhere for a semester, but to do more course-centered travel opportunities.
Yep.
I think those, I know in my previous school experience, those were just phenomenal opportunities for students to take what they learned in the classroom. And it doesn't have to be language, because I don't speak a second language, but travel was a huge part of my persona really at the other school. And I think being able to study, the Sistine Chapel and then to take them and watch them look at it.
I agree. And, spent over a decade of my career abroad, and see the absolute value of living in a culture of travel, of being uncomfortable. For me, it's been figuring out how to help families pay for it. And We are a little bit of a different kind of school than the schools in the East or on the coasts in a way that I love. But, families scrap to come.
Right.
And then those trips are not inexpensive. So how do you either fundraise specifically and endow funds that, $1 million provides $50,000 that we can use to travel or at least defray costs, which is really what I would want to do in a more systematic way. And then I'm like, yeah, let's go. I've wanted to take people to Jordan and then do a border crossing. Let's go into Jerusalem, tie it to world religions, tie it to the history. I'd feel very comfortable doing it, but I'm like, how am I going to ask families to spend that kind of money just on airfare? But yeah, throughout Europe, throughout Central and South America, I love our global exchange programs. I think that has been that's a great feature. It's how do you expand it and how do you give more kids access to that? But I know what you're saying. It's not simply an exchange in that way, but just a trip and a travel. I wish that we did more. And that's certainly in the realm of possibilities. I mean, listen, if somebody wanted to help fund that, I'm like, I will make that happen like immediately. That is not, I have no fear of travel. I'm much less risk averse than I think most heads of school are in that way. And I find that people are fundamentally good, kind, and want you to visit.
Right.
What's
and will help you.
Yeah. What's amazing is that there have been exchanges we've wanted to have with schools in South America and Central America. They look at Albuquerque and say, we're not going. So it's been a little bit of the reverse. I think people were shocked here. Like, what do you mean? Everything's fine here. And but they look at the crime rates or they look at that and I'm like, we're really fine at the academy, believe me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think you're dead on.
Yeah, and nothing's as fun other than letting 14 and 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds try and figure out the metro system in
London.
In another language.
Yeah. Or just in London.
Or just in London.
Right. Yeah.
Or going to the markets. I had a colleague that taught me how to travel really with students, and she always took us to whatever the open air market was.
Love it.
And so I do that now with my daughter or people that I travel with.
We're now on to the part of our show called Lightning Round. Are you ready? I see you're a frequent listener of What I Learned in School, aren't you?
Indeed.
Okay, you ready? Red or green?
Red.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Does history really repeat itself?
Yes, I think it does.
What historical figure would you like to have dinner with?
Joan of Arc.
Why is that?
I just don't understand. I don't understand how she was able to, get the backing of the Dauphin to lead the troops. And I would love to just kind of have that conversation. Mine
would be Lincoln.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I have had this fascination with him. I've read virtually every book there is on him. And I'd love just to have a conversation. That, and I'd love to have dinner with my 4 grandparents in their prime.
Oh, wow. All at the same time or separately?
No. All at the same time, but in their prime. And I guess that this question isn't about me, but I've offered my answer.
No, I think that's great. Yeah.
What's your favorite spot on campus?
My favorite spot on campus. Oh gosh, this is not lightning round, is it?
Don't worry, he'll cut this.
That's a hard question. I actually love the gym. I really do. I don't have any cause really to go over there very often, but you know how certain places still smell the same?
Oh yeah.
Like that gym still smells exactly the same as it did in 1983.
I love it.
Yeah. And when I walk through there, I have very distinct memories of
being a kid,
people, and what used to be around, and
including Taryn,
including including Taryn.
All right. I want to thank John Duncan for helping me explore some of our wonderful Charger traditions, as well as our special guest and my friend, Karen Glenn. I'm very fortunate to be part of a team that cares so deeply about education. Go Chargers! Thanks for listening to What I Learned in School to learn a little bit about Albuquerque Academy. Send us your comments and questions to headofschool@aa.edu. You can listen to all of our episodes on our website at aa.edu and wherever you get your podcasts.